Welcome to the Growth League podcast, where we interview business owners who have experienced quantum leap growth in their business. In each episode, we're going to dive deep into our guests' firsthand experience about what it was like 90 days before and 90 days after that point when their business started experiencing massive growth. This is a good one today, guys. I am here with the president of Shane Homes, Mr. Shane Wenzel. And Shane, thanks so much for being here. I don't like to do the typical sort of read off the bio, so I'm just going to tell the listeners a little bit in terms of what I've picked up in following you a little bit, and you can fill in some of the gaps and bring in a little bit more of the color, because I know it's a very colorful story.
For sure. Go ahead.
So, if you are from Alberta or Calgary an area and you've been living here for the last number of years, you definitely know who Shane Homes is. I think it was 2019, Shane. You guys did. It was your 40th year, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So, growing up as a kid, you recognize the name. I work out at the YMCA in Rocky Ridge, so you see that everywhere. Very philanthropic group, very community involved. And Shane has had sort of all experiences with the group from when he was a kid, being on site to playing a very strong and active role in the marketing department, and now obviously serving as the president. And I know you like to dabble in marketing, and we'll get into that a little bit more, which is awesome. So tell us a little bit more what I missed, Shane, and thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, well, it feels like I've been here forever because I actually started on the job when I was 14 years old. My father didn't, at a certain point didn't believe that I should be sitting around all summer. He felt that, maybe I should get out in the job sites and give my hand because we were a young company and they needed the help. So I started off as a general laborer. And I still remember the story, John Heershop showing up at the house about 7:30 in the morning, picking me up, taking me to the job site, dropping me off and saying, here's your list of things to do. When you're done, you can, walk 5 blocks down to the trailer and catch up with me. And I did that every summer, every professional development day, to be honest with you, from the time I was 14 till I was 18. So, I had that work ethic hammered into me from a very young age. That's why I say it. I've been here forever.
Well, being here forever as a company and as a leader of a company is a good thing. And it's even better when you guys are so involved in the community and the things that you've done. I think the first ever, I was reading something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the first ever philanthropic move you guys made was with Ronald McDonald House.
Ronald McDonald House, yeah. Callan Berry gave $25,000 to the Ronald McDonald House,
which is amazing. Tell me, what are you guys involved in right now?
Seems like everything. There's a lot of best, but we had to develop a specific criteria around who we could support.
Right.
So I mean, the Rocky Ridge YMCA, we're the major sponsor of that. And part of the reason is, we love the concept behind community organizations like the Recreation Center, because it covers off things like health, wellness, and education. And that one being state of the art, I mean, that was kind of a done deal.
I can't wait till you can actually use it again.
Yeah, that would be nice. But we've done that out in Airdrie. We've done that down in Okotoks. We helped with their library. We're involved in Calgary Minor Soccer through their U8 program. They have their soccer tournaments every year. We provide scholarships there. We're involved through Bow Valley with scholarship for dessert. This goes on and on. So we have to sit down and review.
Well, that's good. Yeah, no, that's a good thing to be involved in. So the Growth League podcast, it's all about talking about growth, sustainable growth and scale, but you can't have a meaningful conversation about that until we know the origin. So for a little bit here, can you bring us back to 79? And tell us what you remember as obviously a young guy at that point.
Well, you know what? How the company started. Yeah, that was started by my father's business partner at the time, Barry Balsley, and both of them worked for Jimmy Pattison company called Neonex Shelter here in Calgary, and they built mobile homes and and sold them all over. Cal was the vice president of sales and marketing. Barry was his sales manager, and those who know the story of Jim Pattison know that this guy travels around. He's got this highlighter in his inside front pocket, and he loves his quarterly meetings with all. And it just so happens he was in town for a meeting and a discussion on the business, and he asked the simple question: is it worthwhile keeping this business going? Like, is there any upside to it? And I guess on the management team, Cal was the only one to sit there and say, no, you're gaining market share, you're losing margin. What's the point in keeping it open? It's a fizzling industry. It's going by way of the dodo.
Yeah.
So he talked himself out of a job, but knowing Jim Pattison, he knew that before he even went into the discussion. So Cal's severance was a little larger than most around the table, just because of his honesty, and he took that severance and asked his sales manager, Barry Balsley, who was his partner for 20 years in Shane Homes, if they wanted to start a home building company. So that's what happened in 1979. And a little known fact is that the fellows didn't sell a house for the first 6 months in business because, you look at the economy, we're going through, the NEP and a lot of changes here. I think after 6 months, my mother took pity on them. She's actually our first customer, believe it or not.
Come on.
And she asked the fellows to build a revenue property for her, so they built her a duplex. First home we ever built was a duplex.
That's awesome. And so they were obviously the founders of the company, but they also had shovel in the ground themselves, right?
Oh yeah, odds and sods jobs on the job site, and where that ended for Cal was one day both him and Barry were building a deck on the back of a house, and Barry tells the story as, I heard Cal hammering and then I heard no hammering. He said eventually I turned around. He said there's no Cal, but I can hear this moaning. So he says I walk over to the end of the deck, and he said there's Cal laying on the ground moaning in pain. He'd fallen off the deck and he had broken his collarbone.
No.
And that was actually the last day that Cal worked on the job site.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He was in the office at that point.
So there's never, I think a lot of us entrepreneurs and business leaders, and we think that mistakenly so, but the books and the movies tell us that there's hockey stick growth. There's a moment in time when growth happens. We know that it happens in cycles, right?
Yeah.
But I wondered if you can tell us a little bit about maybe one or two of the more meaningful growth curves that you've either seen firsthand or been a part of leading for Shane.
Well, there's a couple that come to mind. Back in 1990 or 1984, sorry, not 94, 84, where the first hockey stick happened for Shane Homes was Cal and Barry had made a deal on 77 lots in Northeast Calgary in the community of Falcon Ridge. And they came up with this plan to build sell 77 houses in 3 days because they got the lots at such a good deal. They had taken these homes, they built these rectangle boxes with 9 windows and 2 doors, and they all had the same siding color, same roofing color, everything. And this was just going to be a great sale. Well, the 3-day sale never happened because too many people heard about it and bought them all out from them before they could even have the sale. So that was the first time we'd seen that hockey stick go. And fortunately, they were able to get their hands on about 52 more lots, and they were able to pull that off again at a little higher price. But that hockey stick just continued because not too many years later, my father Cal and Jay Westman of Jamin Master Built got together, and they formed the company Excel Homes.
Right.
And that was the division that was going to do all the laned or garageless homes in that corner. So that hockey stick growth kind of went like that and then went like that in a different division.
So what's the next? Well, are you guys in sustain mode right now, or is there another mountain looming that is piquing your curiosity in terms of increased growth that you can talk about?
Well, I can talk about it. But I guess, well, I mean, that was the first time we experienced it. Michaela, let me tell you, back in 2008 and 2009, we experienced that hockey stick again. That's when, everybody else, the entire world is in a world economic crisis. And here we are with low interest rates and an emphasis by a conservative government on housing. And we watched as housing became an investment, where to the point we could have sold over 1,000 houses for a company that was built for 5 to 550. And that was a bit of a surprise when in January you should sell 40 houses and you sell 91. That was probably the best learning experience that we ever had. And but that was that other hockey stick growth pattern more recently, and that was a bit of a shocker. But it was one that you learn a lot from. Don't get me wrong, it was fun for about the first 3 months, and we had to figure out how to build everything. But we did cap the sales off at 650 for a lot of reasons, because you didn't have the trade base. You couldn't build the houses fast enough. You couldn't get a big enough line through the bank. But more importantly, you wanted to be able to service customers properly, right, and you didn't want to do any brand damage at the same time.
Right.
All for the sake of greed.
Totally. And that's what I wanted to ask next, is that you attribute a lot of these hockey stick growths to economic environment, but we all know it's a lot more than that. The values and the pillars that you guys put in place, what were in hindsight, or maybe even in current sight, what are your ingredients, or what in your mind are the ingredients that any company or yours needs to leverage and needs to have in place to grow sustainably and grow right?
I always tell people, having those values in place, and not bullshit values, real values that, that people in the organization buy into. They're here because they believe in the same things. But we've always placed a lot of emphasis on the people in our organization, the processes that we have in place that, that helped us get there. We've always placed our customers at the top of the organizational chart, but we've always made it a really strong point to be financially stable as well. I'm always amazed when I hear about companies that don't get together monthly and have monthly management meetings to at least understand where they are financially and really communicate and share that information openly and freely.
Right.
That only spells disaster in the long run.
What role is tech? I know you're a tech guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What role?
I was for 7 years. I was involved with Tech Canada.
What role did that group, and what role do groups like that play for company leaders? And was it a good experience for you? Is it instrumental? Is it?
You know what? If you end up in the right group of business advisors, that's the most beneficial experience you're ever going to have. And I would highly recommend anybody in business to get involved with that, no matter what the level, because you're sharing information with business leaders who have either seen that kind of exponential growth, or they're just coming up. But it's the sharing of ideas and actually having that advisory board available to you, right, that helps you manage your business moving forward. And I've made a lot of changes around here just based on being in tech and having that feedback from those members. In fact, friends today.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's finding the right group. It's and making it what you want it to be, putting in what you want to get out, type thing. I'm gonna ask you to bring us into any stories of big challenges, big drop off points over the last 15, 20 years. But I want to give you a chance to think about that. And while I do, I've never had the opportunity to tell our listeners about my Jim Pattison experience, but since you brought it up, I figured I would take a few
Sure.
minutes. So I was just finishing my MBA. It was a 12-month accelerated program at Simon Fraser University. It was 12 months because that was the year in 2010 when the Olympics were there. So instead of the normal 2 years, they squashed it into 12 months. So it was almost like the last day, and Jim Pattison's crew came into our class and said, we're looking for 3 groups in here to assemble, and we want you to come up with a digital marketing strategy for the launch of our brand new Scion Toyota car.
Yeah.
So I put my hand up, I got into a group, and there was one kid in my group that I could tell he was going to be good with numbers and good with, all of the operational nuances of a business. Whereas I was more the run and gun sort of, visionary. And that kid, 10 years later, fast forward today, is still my business partner. And we cut our teeth on a Jim Pattison experience, and we were right with him almost every week. And so I got a small glimpse of what you were talking about in terms of his very to the point and almost the games he plays to get to the same conclusion of what you were thinking in the first place. So he's
Sure.
interesting guy.
Well,
So
he
anyways,
didn't become one of Canada's billionaires by being dumb.
that's right. And I remember him always driving around in that car, but he wasn't driving. His assistant, what's her name?
Maureen Chan.
Maureen, and she's like their family basically, right?
Yes, they are.
It was an unbelievable experience. So thank you for bringing that up with Jim Pattison. So, anyways, the challenges. What was a time where it was just like, oh my God, are we going to get through this? Maybe it was a people issue. Maybe it was whatever.
It's right now. It's a right now issue. It's the last 2-3 years issue because we've had a struggling economy, and especially in Alberta. So you always look at ways of, how do you keep the business viable? And I'll tell you what, during the lockdown last year, when that first happened, I was a little nervous. All of a sudden, we've essentially stopped everything. And even, average Calgarians didn't know what to do. They're being sent home. They're trying to work from home. It's a bit of a challenge. Even we had the same challenges here, but we were able to at least continue to operate. But how do you get people to buy when, they're really not allowed to go out to your showrooms? Now, fortunately, we were well ahead of the curve because we already had virtual tours in place. But, the challenge today is, how has that changed for people? You can add in virtual tours, but, how do they purchase a home electronically? And that's really what we're kind of trying to source out right now is, how have consumers' attitudes changed about that? Can we take the remaining paper process within our company and turn it into an electronic process?
Right.
Yeah, because I think you've heard it before, and I tend to agree with it, is that we've taken consumer attitudes or experiences and accelerated them 5 years, all in a matter of a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of catch up to do.
Right.
And we sell, not an everyday item, we sell a luxury item.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a learning curve, and it's also fun, but also a little bit scary for me because usually you have some time to really hop on the trends and try and understand them, and now we're trying to squeeze all that into a year,
Right.
or as I say, the next 10 months.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hopefully not too much longer, but there's going to be some permanent changes for sure, and it's
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, buying the house is one thing
Mhm.
online, digitally, but what about, because obviously in these communities where you're building, you've forever leveraged parades, right? Tours, sales centers, events where the 3 builders get together. And how are you creating the lineup these days?
Well, you're trying to do it digitally now.
Right.
That's the thing, So we at least had some time last year to experiment with things, and one thing, the timing, call it fluky or what have you. I ended up hiring a new GM of sales and marketing, and she comes from the digital world, and she brought in a couple of people who are more familiar with digital marketing, and we had that in place before we got out of 2019. So 2020 was a challenge for them, but they were able to. I don't want to use the word pivot because I'm to the point I actually hate it, but they were able to pivot
Unprecedented time.
quickly. And we had a lot of these things in place, but they at least came with some knowledge and experience in that field, and were able to apply it quickly. And that kind of attitude and that kind of knowledge is really infectious, and that's how you benefit the customer, because we're pushing more towards that direction every day.
Right. Where are you guys building right now? I mean, is there anywhere left to build? I mean, are you in Okotoks yet,
Oh,
basically?
all over the place. No, we're not in Okotoks, but we are out in Airdrie, and we're in various corners of Calgary. And truthfully, there are even more subdivisions opening up. You're going to see a couple big ones open up West Calgary in the this year yet. The Northeast is going strong.
Yeah.
That corner is just it's a little boom town. The deep Southeast is still moving along really well, as Southwest Calgary. So there's opportunities around.
Well, it's good because we're looking. We listed our house on last Monday morning.
Yeah,
By lunch, we had an accepted offer like 15 grand over what we listed it for. So
really.
we close April 21st, and I don't want to live with my in-laws beyond that. So we got to figure this out. I still love them, so I want to make sure we keep it that way. So one thing that's very interesting about you over the last little bit, and I'm sure those that follow would agree, is that you very publicly have overcome what you said. Well, you were surprised by. You were nervous in front of the camera on social media because you talk in
Mhm.
groups all the time, but you've kind of taken on this uh, journey of very, very good and compelling and meaningful content. How does this start? Why did you want to do it? Because it's not easy, right? I mean, tell us about that journey.
No, it's a bit of a challenge. Those digital experts I was telling you about. They're also great people to challenge you. And we're sitting there, we're having a conversation this time last year, and they're asking me questions about, can you do a little bit more for us? Like how? Can you do video? Can you do a little more social media? Can you promote the company? And I kind of looked at them, and those who know me know I'm a little bit finicky about my personal brand, and separating it from the company brand. But the two are one and the same. I just don't want to be that salesy guy that's constantly plugging that way. So I said, sure, I'll support you. I'm just going to do it my own way. You know, there definitely was a bit of a fear of video. Uh, but there were, part of that fear was associated with being, a bit more of a perfectionist.
Right.
It's something that that I've grown to love and get a little more used to, but I still don't really like watching myself on videos. So
Well, I don't watch any of these podcasts. I try not. I watch them once so I can hear what you said again, but I understand what you're saying. For what it's worth, I mean, it really is fantastic content because
thank you.
um, you'd only have to watch it for 15 seconds to know that there's some true heart and some authenticity behind it. And you're talking about things sometimes totally unrelated to marketing your product, right? A lot of times, in fact, it's about self-improvement, it's about reflection, it's about giving yourself a break
Mhm.
when stuff gets too crazy. Even
Well,
recently, there was an
that's where I
Estelle.
wanted to be different, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
That's where I wanted to be different. I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't go out there and just plug an advertisement. And the way I explained social media to our staff or their marketing team is, I said, really, to me, it's always been a networking event. But you wouldn't walk around a networking event with, a sign on your chest,
Right.
just handing out business cards and running away. I said, there's that authenticity factor to it.
Yeah.
You have to be able to share something more than just, hey, this is I'm Shane. This is what I do for a living. And
Yeah.
no, I mean, people connect with people when they know you on a personal level.
Right.
So we talk about kids and soccer. I can talk about on my videos. I talk about life experiences, like you said. I mean, I've had a lot of business experiences and a lot of life experiences at this point. Hopefully, people watch. If they don't want to, well, then I'm happy. I'm turning out information that I feel is valuable, and people it's resonated with some people, which is awesome.
Totally. So outside of these videos, obviously, a large part of our audience is a marketing audience, and we like to talk about business growth, but we also like to dive into how marketing strategy intersects and plays a critical role in this growth journey. What
Mhm.
are some of the marketing strategies that you guys are leveraging right now that you're excited about, that you're curious about? Our audience loves to hear different perspective on that.
Well, I mean, obviously hopping into the digital space, we're a very old company at 41 plus years and, you know, dropping that tradition, not dropping, that's a horrible way to say it. Shifting, that marketing strategy from traditional to more digital. So, flipping it from a 70% traditional to a 70% digital is a big change. And, understanding all the tools available to you that make sense nowadays. That's been a bit of a challenge and a new way of moving forward. But, how do you service the customer is one of the biggest things, and that's really what we think is one of the key things that define us is, how do you make that customer experience a positive one? How do you make it fun for them, and how do you keep them engaged? How do you communicate with them properly? So there's ways in the digital space to be able to do that, and that's what we're working hard on right now is being able to communicate that message a lot better and make it fun.
You've made a career out of understanding and valuing your customer. And
Mhm.
I'm of the mindset that actually, as a digital marketing agency owner, I talk about traditional more than a lot of people I know. I love traditional
Yeah.
marketing. I don't see, obviously, they're different, but ultimately, the differentiator is having that intimate understanding of your customer. So tell us, what have you learned about a Shane home buyer over the last 20, 30 years? Like who are these people?
Well, they've changed over the last 31 years. When I started off at the company, there wasn't a lot of demographic information in place, so I had to quickly move to getting that in place. And what we learned at the time was, that customer was primarily Caucasian, 35 to 45. They had two plus possibly one kid. With one possibly two pets in the house.
Yeah.
How that compares to now is the customer base is very ethnically diverse. 25 to 35 is the primary age group. They might have one kid or they might not. But they definitely have a pet. But you're able to drill down a lot deeper and find out that they do spend time traveling. They are buying a home, especially to live in, more so than as an investment like they were 30 years ago.
Mm,
Now people want to live there. And I think being the research nerd that I am, now I want to know how much do they want to live there? What do they really want to use their home for?
right.
So it's going to be fun over the next year trying to get that research done, especially in a COVID world where we can't do listening or focus groups the way we used to. So
And
it's just another challenge to try and overcome and get the data that you need to make really informed decisions on what you provide people moving forward.
right. Do you guys spend any time thinking about your customers' lifetime value? Are you getting these
Of course.
young couple, and tell me about how you approach that?
Well, I mean, you always get these companies or all these salespeople who talk about, the $1 million customer. I would say that most of them don't believe it. They just think of the sale in front of them. No, I mean, we're trying to create a relationship with people for the long term, and it's we want to provide them that experience. So how do you do that? Well, you start them off with condominiums, and you have to offer them upgrades when they're ready to move to jump to the next level, which might be a street town, and then the next level might be a semi-detached home. The next level might be their first single family home, right down to you know are they going to retire in a bungalow somewhere out in the company or out in the country rather. So there is a life cycle to customers buying homes, and it's usually 5 or 6 homes over their lifetime.
Yeah.
So can we accommodate them? Well, the only space that's not mentioned there that's left is, can we sell them a plot in a cemetery? Oh, we're not going to go there, but I do joke about it. But
How do you guys stay in touch with the, so you sell someone on, say, a condo, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, just got their first job, young couple. How do you stay in touch with them until that point when the retirement party?
well, even that has to evolve over time because we had a pretty decent process through the phone and through email.
Mhm.
But now with these things,
Yeah.
you're able to get in contact with people anytime, and you do have to check with them. You do have to find out what their preference is up front. Yeah, because I had mentioned to you that our customer base has changed so dramatically. So in certain ends of the city, I mean, people will prefer text more so than anything because in their daily job they're not able to check their phone,
Right.
and they don't want a long-winded email. So you're able to text them some of the information, and with the way phones are now, they can get back to you 24/7 if they want.
Yeah.
So it's adding that convenience in to keep people connected and keep them in the loop the whole way through.
Right.
It's not just a phone call. It's not just an email anymore.
Yeah. And I was obviously looking through your guys's the people involved in the company on LinkedIn. There's you see a lot of words like relation, client relation, customer relation. There's like multiple people involved in this, and so and these aren't necessarily just salespeople, right? This is being people
Well,
that dedicate their day to being in touch.
not anymore. No, we're very proud of the fact that that we have some very long-term staff, but at the same time you're trying to involve in a process, and you're trying to involve the people within the company, and that's where we're at really now, is trying to improve that customer experience. So more recently, we just hired a customer experience manager,
Right.
and she oversees the service team, but she touches every end of the company because she's trying to improve the experience.
Right.
And you'll see more of those changes as time goes on because those that's just what happens. A company evolves over time, and we've been around for 41 plus years. I want to be around for another 40.
For
Maybe
sure.
I won't be around for the whole 40, but
Uh,
at least we'll create something that'll endure time and
yeah,
keep
that's right.
rolling.
I always ask guests of mine or people I'm talking to that do business with family.
Mhm.
How is that? Tell us about the relationship with your dad. You know,
That can be fun and that can be challenging at
yeah,
times. Because you have to remind them that it's a business first and foremost.
yeah,
And being family, it's been tough. I've had family members that have worked here that no longer work here. Some have left of their own volition. Some you had to help out the door, and largely because they can't change, or they can take advantage of the situation. It's tough, and to be honest, that's where tech came in through with the business advisory group. Because how do you deal with that? How do you let a family member go? How do you tell them that we have to change things, and either you change with it or you can't be here anymore? That was that's been those have been some of the challenging times in my career, at least.
I've
And I
hired.
always, and I always seem to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, strong winds make strong trees, right? And I'm sure those familial bonds and I don't know how the two of you can't look at the video you posted recently on LinkedIn where it's like the circa 1980s and not be proud of how this is gone, right?
Oh, absolutely proud of it. Every day it's more fun because there's a different challenge that pops up. But starting from absolutely nothing to where it is today, because it's not even just housing; it's multifamily, it's land development as well. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different parts within it. And my father Cal and I always joke because he sits there and he says, I don't totally understand what you do in your job because my job was completely different as president.
Yeah, that's right. Times have changed, right?
Times have
Well,
changed a
on
lot.
the
Yeah.
topic of family, I've hired all three of my younger brothers. One of them quit. The other was a mutual parting ways, and the third one we had to usher out the door.
Yeah.
And my mom is actually our office cleaner, and I don't know, it's looking a little dusty in here, so we're gonna have to have a conversation.
Oh yeah, fun and games.
Yeah. So if you could, where was when you were, let's say you were maybe, when did you start taking over the marketing role at Shane?
Oh, that would
How old were you?
be, well, I started off as a marketing assistant and I became the marketing manager probably about 4 years after that.
Okay. So if you
And then
could,
as the company grew, I just kept moving up the ladder.
right. Where was your hangout spot when you were maybe mid 20s or whenever this was? In terms of if you're going to go grab a coffee and a sandwich, where are you hanging out?
Well, our offices were downtown at the time, and I'd go across the street to Buchanan's because they had great scotch in their bar.
Perfect. Okay. So do me a favor here. If you could go back and sort of hover above young Shane there, sitting in Buchanan's, and you have 5 minutes with that Shane.
Yeah.
What are you telling him? I'll leave it at that.
That's a good question. Have more patience for one.
Hmm.
As you can appreciate, when you're 20 years old, you're a little more fiery, and you expect people to have the same passion for the business that you do. And when they don't, it's hugely disappointing. At my age and stage, I can kind of understand it, and I accept it. But 20-year-old Shane would not accept it. But I'd always say, look towards the future. And that's not always easy for everyone. Because it's too easy to look towards the end of next week or the end of next month and say, okay, things are good. But look 5 years out, look 10 years out. You're not going to base a business plan on that, but you at least have to imagine
Right.
what it could look like or where it could go to.
Yeah.
But never get complacent either,
Hmm.
because it always changes.
Always.
You
We're
know,
seeing that every day.
each and every day. Well, again, who knew we would be where we were last March, and where are we going to be today? So it has to change.
Hmm.
And if you can't accept change, well, then it's time to step out of the way.
Hmm. I think that strong companies that have strong leaders, typically those strong leaders, not always, but they have good, solid routines. Are
Mhm.
you a man of routine? Is it a morning or an evening routine? And what goes into that, and how does that help you?
Well, my partner Matt knows enough to get out of my way in the morning because I have a routine just to get out the door. But during the day, I mean, I have a routine here where I have meetings set up on certain days, certain times, certain hours, and I move through them because I've never been the one to sit there and say I'm going to work 16 hours a day. I'll work long hours if I have to, but I like to be the most efficient. Yeah, so sometimes, I mean, you can be accused of being a little bit too impersonal, but I want to be able to get through it and at least have a home life.
Mm,
That was vastly important when my son was young too, because I would work it so that I was his soccer coach for a while there, but I always wanted to be home for him in the evening. So yeah, that routine is important. And it seems almost robotic at times, but it's well worth it at the end of the day because at least it gives you some stability and you're able to at least get through your day without being so flustered or out of control. I like a little bit of order. I don't mind a little bit of chaos.
a little of each. You're right. It's good to hear that, man, because I have a 2-year-old daughter, and you always wonder, right? Well, you don't wonder. Obviously your kids are first and your family's first, but
Yeah.
is it a matter of I'm trying to grow? Obviously, I'm in growth mode of our company, but everyone who's been on the show, this podcast that has kids, it's been a resounding sort of unanimous conversation around absolutely not, right? It's whatever it means. 4:30, start packing stuff up, because that
Yeah.
that can't be replaced. That dinner with the kids, and
Well, and that's the most important thing, Caleb. I and don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't hold any ill will to it, but when I was growing up, my father worked enormous hours because he was building the group of companies, but he was doing something for our family. So I don't regret that. And he's even asked me, and I said I've had to assure him I don't feel any frustration towards you about that. But I said you have to understand that when it comes to my son, I said I want to be there for him. And I've even told Sebastian that he couldn't figure it out until he actually came to work with me one day when he was in grade 10 because he had to job shadow me for the day. So we got up, we got to the office. He sat through what he called four of the most boring meetings of his entire life. And he's kind of looking at me at 3:30 saying, "Can we go home now?" I'm like, "No." I said, "We got a function to go to tonight."
Oh no.
So I took him to the function as well, and as we're rolling out of there at 8 o'clock at night, he falls asleep in the front seat of the vehicle, and we pull in. I wake him up. He gets in. He goes upstairs. He turns around. He comes back down, and he gives me a hug, and he says, "Dad, I now understand." I said, "Good."
That's awesome. Well, you can look at it with your dad. You could look at it this way, right? And you probably have that. All those long hours he put in basically granted you the opportunity where you have the ability to spend that time with your kid, right?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why there's no regrets and there's no frustrations, towards him because he built something great.
Yeah.
Now I just want to make it even better.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny now because he still comes into the office. He's 77 now. He still drives the job sites every Saturday. He still comes into the office every morning for an hour or two because he's always worked at his own home office, but he came into the office for an hour or two with notes. Well, now the notes aren't that much, and he works on larger things for the company, even outside of the company with his own foundation. But he still has a passion for the business. He just doesn't feel as comfortable in it anymore with the way things have changed.
Right.
But he's still a great source of knowledge, and he's still well respected around this industry.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. And as are you, and as is this company. So I appreciate you bringing us down the story of little story of growth and multiple times growth and what some of the ingredients are for growth and talking to us about your marketing plan. I think that this is great, and I really do appreciate. I know you're a busy guy, so
I appreciate this.
appreciate it, and hopefully this can go into your Rolodex of content for your LinkedIn. I don't know. It's pretty big shoes to fill when you're
What my part-time job is social media influencer. Sure.
That's right. Awesome, Shane. Well, I appreciate it, man, and thanks for bringing us on this story.
Caleb, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Talk soon, and thanks, Shane.
Here, bud. Bye-bye.